understand what I'm about to tell you, you need to do something first. You need to believe in the impossible. Can you do that?
What do you desire that you can't have?
When I eat a brain, I get visions.
Don't ever come back to Gotham.
You have failed this city.
Jesus, what kind of a preacher are you?
There's about a dozen ways that I could stop you right now. But I don't think I have to.
Now you should at least give a brother a moment to say something heroically clever.
In the future, my friends may not be heroes, but if we succeed, they will be remembered as legends.
Welcome to the DC TV report for the week ending Saturday, March 10th, 2018. I'm Edward O'Hare, nickname to be determined.
And I'm Sara Netzley, academic by day, freelance writer by night.
We're here to bring you recaps, news, and commentary for all live-action television shows based on DC Comics.
And we have, I was pausing because I was counting, we have 7 new episodes this week again, right? 7?
Yes.
A lot. We have a lot of DC TV for you, friends.
Yes, we do. And we're hoping, fingers crossed, I had a big powwow with Bill Sweeney this week, our executive producer. And I think we fixed the audio issues on my end.
It's too bad. I think fans really enjoy straining to hear us. So it's a shame.
Yeah. So, if there was that clicking was still there at the beginning of the episode, it's not my fault. I'm sorry, but I don't think that's going to happen anymore. We've done 3 different things. We don't know which one of them worked. It might have been leaving a small little pile of cannolis, outside of my microphone, and hopefully maybe that might have drawn Frankie Mogwai away.
Is this like leaving milk for the Fae folk? Is that how that works?
Yeah. I don't know. Just anything.
What? And have no fear. I've already chastised Ed because as a social scientist, I know that you should always change your variables one by one. If you change 3 at the same time, you're never going to know which one fixed it. So it's sloppy social science research, Ed. It's just sloppy. It's Bush League.
Either way,
it's fixed.
I think it's working. So.
But I'm the one who's screwing up the audio this time because my husband and I have packed up our entire house. It's all on a truck. We're moving into a new house tomorrow. So I'm sitting in a completely empty room on the floor because there are no chairs. And that's why it sounds like I'm talking to you in a large echoing cave because there's nothing soft in here. I'm in the smallest, least bouncy room and it still's Ed, how was your week? Week. So I apologize. I'm the problem now.
That's okay.
You know what?
That's
Frankie
okay.
Mogwai. It's Frankie Mogwai's fault. That's what it is.
Whoa.
Uh-oh, did I just start something?
You know what? The man works hard. It may be in efforts that are counterproductive to what we're trying to do, but
but he's put in the effort,
Yeah. Like I said, I don't know. Do they have cannolis in Illinois?
No, I have no idea what that is.
Oh, it's like an Italian pastry.
Okay.
It's
so
like
is it
a little
sweet.
Yeah. It's like this. It's like this thick, hard pastry shell, and you put this rich cream filling in it, and there's like chocolate chips in there, and it's actually quite tasty.
It's I feel like
it's spelled with a C. It's spelled cannolis.
Oh, gotcha. You just have a fancy flair when you talk about it.
Yeah, no. It's growing up around Italians on Staten Island for some reason. In New York, I guess it's they always put that "g" on stuff.
We here in the Midwest have cannolis. Oh, you betcha. We like our cannolis here. Absolutely. We serve it with hot dish. So I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm sorry to my friends from the North. I know you don't sound like that.
Yeah. Well, the other one is calamari, which if where I'm from, if you don't pronounce it galama, it's galama.
Wait, calamari is galama?
Galama. Yeah. It's I don't know where it comes from. I'm Irish German. I just go with it. So
I'm picturing, though, like a Bill Sweeney type saying, "Hey, there's this squid on my plate. What's this? Squid."
I'm not eating that thing. It had tentacles.
It had more legs than I did. I'm sorry. We have 7 episodes this week, and we should probably.
Yes, we should. Yes, we
Galama?
should. Galama. Go to Lee's Tavern, Staten Island, near the Dungan Hills train station. Best Galama you'll ever have.
Okay, this just is increasing my desire to make a trip out there because all of it sounds fabulous.
And the clam pizza. The clam pizza is incredible.
That does not sound fabulous. I got to be honest.
It's a white pie with clams on it. Oh,
so white makes it better. I was picturing like tomato sauce.
No. Anyway,
well, that's all your food groups. Thanks for tuning in.
That's our 5 minutes of chit chat. Ready to jump in?
Wait, do we have emails? Are we doing that?
Oh yeah, we do. I'm sorry, my bad.
You were talking about clam pizza. You got excited. I get it.
This is true. We did have an email that got in really under the wire last week.
I think it came in as we were recording, and we just weren't able to make it work.
Yeah. But it comes from our friend Ashley, who I believe you can find on Twitter at River8878. And yeah, it has a couple of questions about 4 different shows, 4 or 5 different shows that we talk about. So I'll try to get to those questions as we go through them, and they're not really episode specific as much. So I think they're still pertinent to this week's shows. But the one big question she has for us is for the CW doing a Sunday night lineup. Does this mean they could expand their comic genre lineup to give more of them a chance? And does this mean that they should all be renewed soon?
Frankly, I'm surprised they haven't been renewed yet.
Yeah. I was gonna say usually that announcement comes around sometime in January, but I guess they're holding back for Black Lightning maybe just to see.
Yeah, and I suppose they want to see how iZombie does also before they make some decisions, and it's only been 2 episodes, so I could see pushing it off a little bit. And we've seen stories in the past, we've reported stories in the past where the showrunners keep telling us, "Oh, you shouldn't worry, it's looking good for renewal for Arrow, for Flash, for Supergirl, etc." But I guess the question is, how many of them will they do? If any of them are underperforming, does Black Lightning get a second season? Does iZombie get to come back? None of them, it's the CW, so none of them go gangbusters, but are they doing well enough for the CW's purposes? But I don't know, another superhero show in that lineup, that's a lot of superheroes.
Yeah. I think if anything, we may get 5 a week now instead of 4 a week. But I don't know. There's a lot of different directions they can go in. Also, I know that CW usually likes to announce all of their big renewals at once. So maybe there's just like 1 or 2 stragglers that they're trying to figure out. Like, is Valor worth it, or they, what else do they have? Dynasty? Is the Dynasty reboot doing well?
Honestly, there's not much I watch on the CW that isn't DC, so or Crazy Ex-Girlfriend or Jane the Virgin. That's really it. So any of the other ones, it's Greek to me.
Yeah. So that's that's the only thing that's not really show specific.
If they were to add a show, is there a box you'd like to see them check? Is there a superhero or a demographic or something you'd like to see them add?
The only thing that I could really see them going into now is somewhere in the Batman scope of things. I think now would be a great time for Birds of Prey to come back.
I was just gonna say, there was a Birds of Prey show that didn't do terribly well?
Yeah, it lasted 13. Yeah, it was 13 episodes. That was around the same time Smallville was on. And it was a well-intentioned show. Just certain things about it didn't really work.
Now feels like a good time to try it again.
Yeah,
2018, the year of our Lord 2018, feels like a good time to try to do Birds of Prey.
Yeah, and that involves a character that we're going to be talking about in the news later on this episode, so I don't want to spoil that.
Yep, that was my thought too. Cool.
Yeah.
But no, Ashley, good question. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, and we'll be hearing more from you and a couple other people who sent us tweets out as we go further into this show. But we gotta get going.
Yes.
Yeah. 10 minutes in, ready to go?
Ready to go. Let's do it.
All right, let's do this. So, Lucifer, for real this time. Season 3, episode 16, Infernal Guinea Pig. Lucifer flew down to hell and accidentally placed Abel's soul in the body of a Hollywood producer's secretary who was being hunted by a Bolivian drug cartel. Mazikeen and Amenadiel hashed out their issues about Amy's recent breakup with Dr. Linda. Charlotte started therapy with Dr. Linda and struggled to open up about her experiences in hell. Last minute reveal, Marcus's hopes were dashed as he watched his brother, sister, I don't know, get run over by an ambulance.
So, what did you think about Abel?
I think Abel was fun. They made him a degenerate, which I guess is to be expected. I think it's funny that for someone who's been tortured for thousands of years, you'd think he would just, run into a corner and just hide.
Yeah, actually, Abel seemed pretty psychologically healthy, all things considered.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I would be more broken at that point.
I guess at a certain point you just come through the other side and accept the reality that this is what you're living in. You might as well make the most of it. But yeah. I thought that this I thought the approach was good. I liked the way that this directly tied into the same case that Chloe and Dan were working on all episode.
Mm-hmm.
I like the idea of a Hollywood producer who has no idea what her assistant is doing. Or maybe she does.
Well, and I like the acknowledgement that, the assistants are the ones who run the world, really. So.
Yeah. Yeah.
This is, I think, twice now this season that we've had Chloe, the one who over-identifies on the case, who is making it all about her. And this was another week where she did that, and that's always fun for me. So,
yeah,
enjoyed that.
Yeah.
And Lauren Lapkus, who played Abel, was delightful. I wasn't sure. I was a little disappointed when the casting was announced because, I don't know, I was expecting, of course, some sort of dude, but she was funny, and it was funny to see the, like you say, the sort of lecherous, old-timey thoughts flowing out of that mouth, and she manspreaded like a champ all the way through. Every time she was in a chair, she was occupying as much of that chair as she possibly could. It was great.
Were you a little disappointed that they took her out so fast?
I was. The logic of it didn't really work because the murder happened. If Abel's alive, the murder still happened. So Lucifer's whole logic was flawed. But whatever, it let us have this fun episode. But the logic then, when she died, Lucifer can keep popping that soul back into a body and back into a body and back into a body if it makes Cain feel better. So none of it made sense. That said, I am sorry that we lost that particular vessel for that soul because she was a lot of fun. And I would have enjoyed seeing her pop up again periodically. Alas.
Yeah. And I used Amy in the recap for a meta deal, which I know is much to Bill Sweeney's chagrin. But
well, earlier this season, Dr. Linda suggested that he could be called Amen, like Amenadiel, Amen. But that's even worse than Amy, I think. Amy and Lucy's far better.
Yes, and that storyline with him and Maze kind of creeped up on me in the episode. I felt like he just shows up. First, he comes out of nowhere. You have no idea how he found Abel or how we even knew to look for him.
He's like a Terminator. He just turns up, single-minded, blank-faced.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden that turned into him, having this knockdown, drag-out fight with Maze.
Things were said that needed to be said.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So do you think this is finally over now, or is it still...
I do not.
Yeah.
I think we have plenty more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I really do. You know what other storyline snuck up on me was Charlotte Richards. When she had her first session with Linda, she was quite awful, actually. Accusing Linda of just wanting to take her money. But boy, that last scene between the two of them when Charlotte confesses her personal hell loop of watching her family get murdered by people she defended, I thought Trisha Helfer killed it. Oh, it was good. Yeah. It's good stuff.
Yeah, that was a very powerful scene. The Bolivian drug cartels. Who knew? Who knew they liked movies?
Who knew? The plunge.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What? Anything more to talk about with this episode? Anything really more to?
No. It moved the needle a little bit further on the plot with letting Pierce die. But not hugely so. It was fine. It was good. It was a good episode. It wasn't, I thought, a great episode of Lucifer. But, a good episode of Lucifer is still a good episode of TV.
Yeah. And I think this is one thing where the premise excited me a little bit more.
Yeah, maybe that's what it was. I just had higher expectations for this Abel thing. Mm-hmm. And as fun as I found Lauren Lapkus's performance, it wasn't quite what I was expecting, maybe. Or it was over too soon, or I don't know. It just, the hype didn't quite live up to the reality. Sorry, Lauren.
Sorry. All right. Any news for Lucifer?
Just one little thing, and that's why I was so very certain that this whole Amenadiel Maze Linda thing is not over, and that is because this week's episode, as you're listening to this podcast, is going to feature Charlotte Richards acting as a mediator between Linda and Maze to try to repair their friendship. So that is going to keep going, which is great. I know, I'm glad. Linda and Maze are such a cool, unusual pairing, and they are on the outs, and I don't like it, and it gives us more Charlotte as well, so I look forward to that.
Yeah. Well, one other thing I did enjoy is how it turned out that the best way for Lucifer to find Abel was to think of where he would go.
Lucifer basically, is Abel in terms of the id controlling everything else, and so go where the ladies are.
Yeah, definitely.
Maze just slapping a bunch of ones into their hands was great.
All right. Now on to another show which we're getting a lot of hype from on Twitter. And in discussion, let's head into DC's Legends of Tomorrow. Season 3, Episode 13. No Country for Old Dads. The Legends scramble to rescue Ray from the Dark family, who took him to 1962 to capture a scientist that a younger Damian killed for solving cold fusion. Wally helped Amaya and Zari meditate and commune with her totem, and they learned that Nora's darkness is infecting the totem. Ava and Sarah's budding romance became a little more awkward, with Rip hanging around the Wave Rider. Last minute reveal, Damian brought Nora cocoa to apologize for leaving her with a demon as a child, and Nora went all red-eyed as Malice, ready to go on with their mission.
The best way to apologize to me is through hot chocolate. This is accurate.
Yes.
So, I feel that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Just so you know, for the Monday shows, I found the first story beat was really, really heavy, which is why I'm taking those deep breaths in the middle of it. Yeah. This was now you tweeted something at me that I nailed this episode, and I'm happy to take credit, but could you remind me exactly what I said last week?
Well, so I complimented you and you were like, oh yeah, thanks. Not knowing what I was complimenting for. Good, cool. No, you had said that it would be nice if we could see some Gorilla Grodd action again.
Oh, that's right.
Or possibly King Shark. And what do you know? Gorilla Grodd turns up in Legends. So last week you say, hey, I'd like to see Grodd again. And we got to see Grodd again. It's like you control the DC universe.
Okay. All right. You're right. Yeah. That was great. And it was great to see Grodd.
It was such a throwaway.
It was well. I mean, it was almost like Bennett, the current at that time head of the Time Bureau, was being such a jerk that you wanted a superhuman gorilla to just tear him in half, and evidently that's what happened.
Careful what you wish for.
Yeah, and a lot going on. We really got to know more about Damien and Nora because they were there at the start of the episode instead of like 2/3 of the way through.
I really liked being able to see Nora sort of do her thing away from her dad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's weird because like Neil McDonough is so, has that certain eccentricity and gravitas to him, whereas like I don't know if Nora would have been able to carry it as just being alone by herself for this whole season. But
although I don't know, I think I would groan less when Damien Dark, if the Dark who was appearing on my screen was Nora and not Damien, I think I would be less low-key annoyed.
Yeah.
All the time.
It just,
I'd be willing to try. I'd risk it, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, it's just on paper, Nora doesn't have the same weight as like Damien Dark. He's a big bad because he's already done it twice before. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed her scenes with Ray, seeing him try to get through to her, and failing miserably in the end.
Honestly, I kind of ship it. I don't know what's wrong with me. I actually have in my notes, Ray and Nora, Ray and Zari, how to choose.
Ray and Zari. It's Ray and Zari.
Oh, not Zari. Yeah. Oh, yeah. All right, fine.
Yeah.
But what if his love can save Nora? What if his love can save her?
Well, actually, Ray is supposed to get with Jean Loring, who's Oliver Queen's lawyer on Arrow right now. And then they have a violent divorce that ends up with Jean killing someone.
That's not a good way to handle your post-marriage woes.
Yeah, killing a different superhero's wife. It's a long just read Identity Crisis by Brad Meltzer. That's all I'll say.
Brad Meltzer, like the fiction writer?
Yes, yeah. Huh. They let him write a DC crossover, and it was a huge. It stuck in everyone's craw. Like a lot of people were really upset, and except for the fact that it was really, really well written. Yeah. And I'm going off on a tangent now, but a lot to talk about there. Let me just get to one of Ashley's questions from her email from last week about Legends. She wants to know who's the dad of Amaya's kids. She feels like she keeps mentioning she needs to go back to her own time, but no one has ever really said who her future man is. She wants to know if there's a comic that can fill in the gap. I don't know. I have not read a lot of Vixen. She doesn't have much solo stories. Vixen usually comes up as a team member in Justice League and like other random teams like Justice League International at one point. So there's not just about her specifically. Actually, I would say probably her most fleshed out stuff has been in the animated series and when she's appeared on Legends.
All I'm saying is she and Nate flashy thingied each other a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. She also asks, is there a timeline or era that you guys would want them to go to go into or tackle, or would not want them to tackle? Sarah?
So I've had a week to give this some thought, and I've come up with some suggestions.
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be fun, given the popularity of Hamilton, the musical, to do something with the founding fathers and to sort of play with the characters as we know them from the musical or through pop culture. That could be kind of fun. I'd love to see Sarah Lance with the suffragettes. I'd love to see him on the Titanic. But the two that I actually think would be really cool, and one is, I don't mean to make light of tragedy, but are you familiar with the Great Molasses Flood?
No.
Okay, so the molasses disaster happened in Boston in 1919 when a molasses storage tank burst and hot molasses swamped the streets of Boston, and it killed 21 people and injured 150 with hot molasses. And for decades afterward, the residents claimed that on hot summer days, the area still smelled of molasses. It's not funny. It's very sad, but it's so strange. It just seems like the kind of thing the legends could really... Molasses? Really? Yeah. Okay, we have to get out before the molasses hit. That would be really weird. And then in the completely not funny vein, the Triangle Shirtwaist Fire was seminal in terms of workers' rights and union mobilization when all these workers, primarily women and primarily immigrants, died because the greedy owners locked the doors and made it really hard for them to escape when things caught on fire. So it was tragic. But that's an interesting era of time. It's a snapshot in history, and I don't know, I could see you have enough strong women on the show, and there's so many women involved in the deaths and then in mobilizing the unions. I've just turned this into a history lecture, and I didn't mean to, but this was a fun one for me to ponder. And so there's a couple that I think would be really neat. But those particular snapshots, those times in history could be kind of fun for them to drop in and do. Yeah. Do you have something sexier than mine?
Well, I do.
Because mine involved molasses.
I do remember in 4th grade reading a short little book in school about the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory called East Side Story. You can go look that up. Of course, all the girls in my class going, "Oh, it's West Side Story." No, it's East Side Story.
No, opposite.
Told from the perspective of a young 12-year-old girl working in the Triangle Shirtwaist Factory before it went on fire. And I always remember like the story is it wasn't just that the doors were locked. It's that the doors open, you had to pull them in order to open them. And because everyone was crowding around. And so the bodies
were all found piled up.
Yeah.
And they kept the hallways really, really narrow because they wanted to search the workers before they left to make sure they weren't stealing any of the product. And so they made it so it was really, really hard to leave. Yeah. So the owners of the factory who instituted those policies were fined pretty heavily after all the shouting was over with court cases. And then they opened the new factory and they did the exact same thing. Oh, wow. Ugh. Early 20th century capitalism was terrible. Wow.
Well, I just remember saying like that's why building codes like now exit doors have to open out.
Have to open outward. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It's a really cool. I mean, like it's a very sad, but it's a very interesting time in history because it really did lead to a lot of changes in terms of worker safety and, as you say, building codes and unions and workers' rights and they had a lot of it was a lot of scrap because it was. They were making shirts, so there's a lot of fabric scraps and patterns, and just everything was flammable, and it's just really sad. Yeah. And again, you have that immigrant population, that young female population. There's not a lot of power, and it's like, wow, okay, legends. Let's get back to legends.
Yeah. So I'm just gonna say I want them to go to World War II and meet Sergeant Rock and Easy Company. All right. You know, that's enough. You know, for those you know in the Marvel universe, I guess the corollary would be like the Howling Commandos.
The Howling Commandos.
So yeah, there's that. Was there anything more in the episode that we needed to touch on, or
Ava's secret? Ava has a secret. Ooh. What is Ava's secret?
Yes. What is in file 537B? That Rip deleted. I don't know. Could we get to that in the news? Is that touched on at all?
We possibly could. Yeah. So in the news, the March 26th episode is called I, Ava, in which Sara learns the sinister truth about her new girlfriend. And, to me, that calls to mind, is she a robot? I, Ava, I, robot.
Well.
I don't know. Do you think Ava Sharp's a robot?
No. I don't.
All right. Short answer?
No. I think more likely she's a disgraced figure skating champion. And that's. I mean, maybe she's a replicant. I don't know if we're going all Blade Runner, if we're following the trends. But yeah. I guess there's more to her than meets the eye. Maybe she's Sarah's granddaughter. Wouldn't that be creepy?
Ew.
I'm just throwing stuff out there. Hey man, after Arrow and all that confusion that's going on with Laurel Lance, to me, anything's possible. Cool. What else is in the news?
Other tiny little thing. This week's episode is Necromancing the Stone, which we have been hearing about on social media forever and ever and ever. And it's going to feature time travel using a different mechanism, the time stones.
Ooh, okay.
So,
all right.
That's what I know there.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's Constantine, so there's got to be some mystical way that he could travel through time if he wants to, right?
He's Constantine.
Yeah. Cool. Is that it for the news?
That's it.
All right. Let's pick up the pace a little bit. We saved some time with Lucifer, and then we took some extra time with Legends. I don't know. We're gonna work it out, but moving on now to iZombie, season 4, episode 2, Blue Bloody. Liv enjoyed a martini garnished with the brains of a dowager killed by a golf ball shot out of an air gun that may or may not have been fired by one of her house staff. Clive asked Ravi for help with the intimacy issues he's been having with his zombie girlfriend Dale. Major took Jordan and Captain Seattle out for their first patrol, and things went really sideways. Angus began efforts to expand his congregation with a parade float, giving out free brains to little zombie kids. Last minute reveal, Angus gave out brains to his followers like it was communion, and brought the crowd to its feet.
Honestly, that dead old lady is kind of old lady goals for me. She's gossiping, she's kind of awful, she doesn't care. She just does it. That was my thought in the first scene when she was doing her thing, but then when Liv ate that brain, I was just, that old lady is terrible. She is horrible. So maybe not old lady goals, but this featured one of my favorite lines in this show ever, which was Clive introducing Liv on Dowager Brain as, you might remember her as the star of Murder, She Wrote. So thank you, show, for that.
I do think it's a little weird now that everyone's in on the joke with Liv.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a big adjustment for sure. For sure.
Because it used to be like, why is this person acting so weird? And like, oh no, she's a zombie. She just ate the person's brain. So that's why. Oh, okay. So she's acting a lot like the victim.
Honestly, I know we're only 2 episodes in, but I haven't enjoyed this season as much as I have previous seasons. And I wonder if you've just pinpointed what it is for me. Everybody's in on it. And so she doesn't have to hide, and you don't have that delicious, when is Clive going to say, enough is enough, what is wrong with you? Mm-hmm. Yeah, maybe that's, I don't know.
Well,
which is not to say I'm not enjoying it. I always am going to like iZombie, but it's not quite as exciting for me as it has been in seasons past.
Yeah. I don't know. I enjoyed this episode well enough. I do think I feel like the clothes, they're getting a little bit more outlandish. They're like, okay, at this point, let's just go off the deep end. We miss Blaine in this episode, and Angus and everything's going on with him, but I really want to know, because we saw last episode Blaine's situation. He's doing really well financially, but he's he's on very, very hollow ground. So, feels like that could slip out from under him at any moment.
Yeah, I've never been a big fan of Angus as a character, and they're really doubling down on Angus this season, so maybe that's a part of it too. I hate being a negative Nelly. I will say, if I am a 70-something broad who dies and my brain gets eaten by somebody having sex with Major, my death will have been worth it. I mean, that's okay. All right, cool.
Yeah.
Which is another thing. Liv and Major apparently are together, or were together, and that is everything I've ever wanted for Liv and for Major, because they're so great together. And then in the space of 10 minutes, they're broken up. Aw, iZombie. No.
Yeah, I feel like it was implied. You
break my heart, iZombie.
Yeah.
You break my heart.
I feel like it was implied a little bit that they were getting back together towards the end of last season. But to be honest, with the directions that they're going in right now, it doesn't make sense for them to be in a relationship, because just from an ideology standpoint, it feels like they're going in complete opposite directions. So there is a natural conflict going between those characters right now.
Maybe I wish it had it was so fast. I wish that we had let that bake a little bit more before they finally decide this is just we're too different. This is not going to work. But I understand it's a shorter season. You don't have as much room to breathe with some of that. But another thing I wondered, did this brain seem especially strong? I felt like Liv was, I don't know, it felt stronger to me than others, that she was a little bit more awful than usual.
Oh, yes. Yeah. She was a horrible human being.
She was really vile.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that made it worth it, like, you had to have that moment at the end of the episode where she's crying her eyes out and she realizes what she's done.
Yeah.
Like it was almost to the point where, like, this brain can only be affecting her so much. And then she comes out of it and realizes, she has that crying moment with, was it Ravi or Major? Yeah, it was Ravi.
Ravi, who is, as every week, the MVP when Clive comes to him for sex advice, and Ravi's just like, yes, let me help you.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting issue that's brought up. That's one of the interesting things about living in a society with zombies that, you may not think about.
I mean, it is one of the overlooked aspects of zombie human society. I agree.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, it's also kind of like, how awkward it must be for two people who love each other when one of them has an STD.
This is true.
I mean, this is true. It's on a very different scale, but I think it illuminates a similar issue that people might have. I don't know. Cool.
And Major's patrol, you'd think they'd have those dudes in gloves so they couldn't scratch people, but, live and learn. Or undead and learn, whatever.
Yeah. I mean, that whole situation went sideways.
Real fast.
Yeah. Well, you know what? It's funny. You know what's funny? Growing up with a lot of people in my family work in law enforcement. Mm-hmm. And I had a very similar reaction to what, to reactions I've had and I've seen members of my family have had when they see, these dashboard cam videos or the body cam videos of, of things that happen. And you see how what seems like a small discussion and people on both sides of it making stupid decisions cause something to escalate so quickly. That was a really hard scene to watch. And what's interesting is I'm looking back at my notes and like that happened at the end of Act 4. And then we had a commercial break and never went back to that. In fact, Major shows up later in the episode and there's no mention of that incident. And, I'm interested to see how that crops back up because there's no way that video is not making it online.
Yeah, that surely is next episode's issue, right?
Yeah, it has to be. It has to be, unless Chase has a team, Chase Graves has a team of hackers that are, better than anyone else on Earth.
I honestly wouldn't put it past him. That seems like a thing Chase Graves would prioritize. He would scratch a really good hacker so he could suppress information he doesn't want out there.
Yeah. So,
Chase would do that.
Anything more on iZombie?
No. I despite everything I just said, I am really glad it's back.
Yes.
In my life.
Yes. Was there any news?
And tiny little bit of news. Episode 5 is called Goonstruck, and it's going to feature hockey player brain. And it's the episode where we're going to meet Levon, who is potentially Liv's new love interest. So, 2 weeks from now. 3 weeks from now? Yeah.
Yeah. And just so you know, hockey player brain is very different from football fan brain. I know they sound similar, but there are huge differences, which I'm hoping we're going to see illuminated.
What are you talking about, Ed?
Anyway.
All right. That's it for iZombie for me.
All right. So, next up, The Flash. Season 4, Episode 15, Enter Flash Time. Jesse Wells dropped by and had a hard talk with Harrison about his unwillingness to deal with his wife's death. A nuclear bomb went off, and Barry pulled people into Flash Time, trying to stop the explosion before it was too late. Last minute reveal, after Wells and Caitlin had a friendly conversation at Jitters, that weird mystery girl spilled a drink on them and had an awkward moment.
You know, this was my favorite Flash episode in a long time.
There's something to be said for bottle episodes. You know? Yeah. The Jesse Harrison story was a little contrived, but I think it fit. But just the emotional stakes as Barry got further into it, really, really resonated with me. This is a very simple story. It's just that, there was really only 2 main plot lines, and one of them heavy feature. And I just like this idea of we have 8 minutes and there's this one task that we got to accomplish. And it's, those stakes felt real, even though, okay, I know this is an episode of The Flash and we have a whole season to get through. You still weren't sure quite at the end if he was gonna pull it through.
I really enjoyed anytime you have an episode that opens in media res like that, you're going to get the 48 hours earlier, and so I typically yell out like 2 weeks earlier, just trying to guess how much earlier it's going to be that we're starting after that cold open.
Yeah.
And this time it was 8 minutes and 47 seconds earlier. And I just loved that. I wasn't expecting it. So it started, I was pleased from the beginning. I loved watching each character interact with Flash Time, with as Barry pulls them into the Speed Force.
Yeah.
Cisco is like, is this it? And Killer Frost, of course, flirts with it. I mean, just the whole thing. It was fun for the characters, but there were stakes. You got to see Barry literally sweat, which I enjoyed. And of course, anytime you get Jake Garrick in that classic costume, I love it.
Yeah. Yeah. I also, they got really Star Trek Next Generation with the technobabble in this one, like even more than usual. And I liked how being in Flash Time, the way that it affected Cisco's powers. Just the fact that he wasn't able to open that breach because he was moving too fast. But it wasn't just like they weren't working at all. It was just kind of like, I liked that effect. I just liked the way that worked. I'm
still trying to wrap my mind around, meanwhile, the idea that the Speed Force is a thing that can be bombed. I'm still trying to grapple.
Okay,
with that.
The Speed Force is a concept that is actually relatively new compared to the comics. It was, I believe, introduced by Mark Waid in the mid-90s when Wally West was the Flash. That the Speed Force was this force that all the speedsters tapped into to get their powers. And not that there was a finite amount of it, but it was just like another dimension that you could go into and tap energy from. So Jay Garrick just really kind of lays out that stakes. Like you first off, we don't know enough about this Speed Force to go just playing around with it. So if you throw a nuclear bomb into it, this isn't just affecting Central City or Earth 1. This is affecting every speedster in the multiverse. And, we don't know how many people that is. How far that force travels. I really liked having John Wesley Shipp in this episode. I thought those scenes were great. And I think it's practical for him to be deciding to retire. And he was talking about Jesse when he was talking about his replacement, right?
I assume so. Yeah. Although I did see some chatter online that they might have been talking about Coffee Shop Girl. I don't know where that comes from. We've not seen any evidence of that, but I assumed it was Jesse. That was my take on that. Right. I super loved Killer Frost asking them, "Don't let Katie die." That just, I don't know. I really liked that. That character beat and that duality and the protectiveness she showed there of that, other half. I like that a lot.
Yeah. And that really, that shined a little bit more in her character. That that was another thing where Barry's powers affected Caitlin, is that she was able to remember what Killer Frost was doing during that period. Mm-hmm. So I thought that was just those cool little tie-ins that they're doing. And it's funny. It's with a science that doesn't really make sense, but they set up the rules and they follow them. Which is something that a lot of, especially sci-fi based shows, have a hard time doing.
Make your rules as wacky as you want. As long as they're internally consistent, I'm not going to have as much problems with it as if you are willy-nilly with, but this time it's, yeah. My read on that last scene, that last minute reveal, Coffee Shop Girl to me looked evil at the end. Oh, I already did. I mean, that really is how it felt to me. And that was the first time I was like, oh, maybe she's from the future to destroy us? Like,
oh, I don't know.
I'm sure I just misread it, but
yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think it was like she knew that they were having that conversation and she had to do something to break it up. I don't know. This is a weird mystery. I guess we'll find out. I guess we're just going to have to keep watching. One quick thing in Ashley's email. It's funny because DeVoe was not in this episode, and I think
I did not miss him.
No, you didn't. And it's funny. We were talking last week. There are 3 bus metas left, and I think 9 episodes at that point. So how are we gonna, see them spread out? Are they gonna do 3 in a row? And obviously they haven't, because we didn't meet one in this episode. But Ashley,
we still could do 3 bang 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 coming up if that's what they wanted to do.
That's true. But Ashley was asking, pointed out that the last meta that they found was able to injure DeVoe. She wanted to know if that means that he's, that as he's getting more abilities, is his original ability getting weaker, or is he just becoming more vulnerable?
I kind of read that as his weakness was to that specific meta's powers, and it wasn't an indication of his overall weakness, but that's just one woman's interpretation. So it's very possible that his power accumulation is affecting him in some way. I think that would be much more interesting if he was weakening in some areas while he's growing in others. I don't know. Did you have a read on that?
Yeah, I mean, you'd already see that his body had become so frail, before he started taking on all of those. I think it's just, the power of his mental abilities, his thinking abilities, I mean, we've been talking about that, your whole theory that, as he's getting weaker, the eventual goal is he's going to have to take Barry's body because it's the only thing that can heal fast enough to keep up with his degradation. I think that's a similar version of that. I think we could definitely be going in that direction.
But as to the question of when will we see the bus metas, I'd like to think they'd spread them out a little bit. I think it's nice to space out the season-long arc with standalone episodes. Yeah. A lot of times the standalone episodes are the ones that I enjoy the most on almost literally any show. So I'm always a little bit more about the Monster of the Week stuff. So if Flash chooses to do things like this episode more often, that would be great.
Yeah, we got them every other episode. We got 8 episodes left now, and there's 3 bus metas. I do them every other one, and then, just wrap it up.
And then a good finale. That's some good math there.
Yeah. Math. Something else we do on this show. Cool. Is there any news for Flash this week?
Oh, just a tiny little thing. Well, not tiny. Kevin Smith had a heart attack recently. And the casts of Supergirl and Flash sent him nice get well cards, lots of handwritten best wishes and things like that for his healing, because he is a frequent director on both of those shows. So I thought that was awfully nice. Yeah.
Kevin Smith, close to my heart, been a fan of his for a long time. And I listened to several of his podcasts. I think he probably does about 5 or 6 a week, it feels like. And that was really hard to hear, and I hope he's feeling better. So, thoughts and wishes and, healthy thoughts in your general direction. That was cool. That was, cool that both of those casts reached out.
Yeah, I thought so too. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's it for Flash.
Oh, wow. Okay. All right. Then I guess now we get to move into Black Lightning. Season 1, Episode 7, Equinox, the Book of Fate. Everyone went back and forth over whether Anissa should be allowed to do the whole hero thing. Jefferson's trust in Gamby waned as they both tried to track down Joey Toledo and Tobias Whale. Tobias became wary of Greenlight and contemplated taking direct action against Lady Eve. Last-minute reveal, Lala woke up in a hotel room and LaWanda asked if he believed in the resurrection, right before magically transforming into a tattoo on Lala's chest.
Okay, Ed, what in the world is going on this show?
What? This show is really grounded. And
yes. But also photorealistic tattoos are murdered ladies.
Yeah, this took a really hard turn. And also the thing that we were talking about last week, I was joking that the actor who played Tobias didn't shave, and that's why he looked exactly the same. We didn't realize that that Black Lightning and Tobias Whale have not come face to face until this episode.
Yeah, that's strange. It didn't even occur to me, but yeah.
So no one else has commented on the fact that Tobias hasn't aged in 30 years, which makes a lot more sense now. So there is something mystical going on. So when he told Khalil that he could defeat his pain, he could teach him to defeat his pain, now I believe he can make Khalil walk again.
Most importantly, when I asked you last week, how the hell old is Tobias Whale? I am vindicated. That dude is old.
Yes. Yeah, you were right.
Thank you.
You were right.
I didn't actually mean to make you say I was right, but I was like, oh, good. Yes, I wasn't miscounting my decades. Wait, how old is he? Yeah. I love every flashback we get to scared kid Jefferson. Not that I like scared children. I mean, I'm not a monster, but I love that vulnerability, and it's the origin story. I love it.
I do.
So did you want to go back to me liking scared children?
No, I enjoy scared children very much. Serves them right, the smelly buggers.
They're so small and sticky. That's what they get.
Let's just stop now. But. A lot, we learned a lot about Gamby. A lot more.
Okay, quick question. Who knows what evil lurks in the heart of men? Gamby and the shadow getup.
Yes, that was crazy. That was great. God damn it. If he had only had that that hanky covering his face be red.
Missed opportunities.
No. Well, I mean, missed opportunities at violating copyright.
Copyright should be right.
I thought the intrigue that's going on, you realize how, deep his alliance with treaty with Lady Eve goes, and now all that's thrown out the window.
Oh, poor Lady Eve. That was gross.
Yeah. You know what's funny? This did the opposite of what the Luke Cage series did. Spoilers for anyone who hasn't seen season 1 of Luke Cage.
But seriously, what are you waiting for?
Skip ahead a little bit. But in that show, they killed Cottonmouth halfway through the season and made Black Mariah the big bad. And this show, they've done the exact opposite. The big female character that you think was controlling everything, she's taken out, and now Tobias. Ooh, and he's even worse place because now his sister's dead because of Black Lightning, and he's probably gonna have that Shadow Council coming after him.
Yeah, I don't think he's gonna take that very well.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. So he's in a. I thought it was brilliant the way they made it look like she was attacked by Black Lightning.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. A lot to like about this episode. A lot to like. I think this is really, really cool.
And on the family drama front, I loved the conversation between Nyssa and Jefferson, where she tells her dad that she wants to be like him, and he says, "I want you to be better." I love the way this family talks to each other. The sisters, the dad, the daughters. My only concern, I worry a little bit that Lynn, who I think is expressing really reasonable fears, but I find myself annoyed with her. And I'm worried she's going to go that Skylar White route. And I probably have said this on the show before, but she is obviously, you don't want your loved ones being a superhero vigilante. That's not safe. But I'm irritated. Like, let it happen, Lynn. Man, quit being a wet blanket. Yeah. So I feel like I am the internet responding to Skylar White, who also was like, maybe don't deal meth, Walter. And everybody hated her for it. So yeah. I hope they can, I don't know, maybe I need to be a better person, but, or maybe they could write her to be a little, I don't know.
Well, I mean,
but to
me, it's different in a couple ways. Also, I will say Ashley in her email, I won't do the exact wording, but she pointed out the same way to you that, and my favorite scene in this episode was the talk that Leonard and Anissa had, where Anissa basically realized that her dad wasn't cheating on her mom, that the reason it broke up was because of Black Lightning. And Ashley made a thing, she was surprised that when the reveal came last week, Lynn didn't point to Jefferson and say, "Meet the other woman." But
well, we had to wait for, and I think that would have been very cool last week, but this week's episode, I like the payoff even more, where you get Anissa saying, "Oh, now I see the truth of my parents' marriage." Got it.
Yeah, and I think that was a very powerful moment, and I do also, I think this is different from Skylar White in the way that she comes to an acceptance of like, okay, this is going to happen. These powers are there. They're not going to ignore them, even though I want them to. Like, now she puts the onus on Jefferson, is like, you've got to train her properly, so that she's.
And he says he's going to, and it's awesome.
Yep. Now, we haven't really had, the sidekicks you had on Arrow was different. Because they're these established heroes, and there's not really like a training going on, and most of the time they train themselves. This, I think, is very similar to a Batman and Robin thing, because it's from the ground up, and also because it's a father and daughter. There's a really cool dynamic that I don't think has been explored properly on screen, as it has in comics.
And there was some there was some hope with, and I'm going to jump ahead to Arrow a little bit, but with Oliver, I mean, spoiler for last season, I guess, having a son, that we might get to see Oliver training his kid. Mm-hmm. And that would be kind of cool to see that father-son thing. And that's not happened so far, but his son is pretty young. But you're right. That dynamic that I think Arrow fans thought would be so cool is going to play off here. And I'm really excited about it.
Yeah. So yeah. Lots to think about. It's a really good episode. Was there any news for Black Lightning?
You know, a tiny little thing. Cress Williams did an interview, he plays Jefferson, where he talked about how much he loved the Black Panther movie and how he hopes that it's going to lead maybe to a ratings bump for Black Lightning as people embrace, celebrate, become aware of more Black superheroes. So a little bit of Marvel DC unity this week from Cress Williams.
Yeah. And I think, this is the one thing, when a superhero does well, when a superhero movie does well, it's good for everybody. There's really no...
A rising tide lifts all boats.
Yep. So... yeah. And I thought that was a great movie. I think everyone should see it. I
still haven't seen it. I know, it's this stupid, we're moving. We bought the house. We're moving. Every weekend has been work. I know. I'm hoping this weekend we can sneak away.
Yeah.
I'm disappointed in myself. You don't have to tell me you're disappointed. I'm disappointed in myself.
All right. That was the only news, right?
Yeah, that's it.
All right. I'm not going to dwell on that. We're just going to jump into the next show.
I expected you to cut off my mic. That's it. You're done. I'll handle the rest of this. Non-Black Panther seer.
All right. Next up, Gotham. Season 4, Episode 13, A Dark Night, A Beautiful Darkness. Ivy finally found herself on Jim's radar as her crusade for plants drew her to Wayne Enterprises' Project M. Ivy scratched Bruce and caused him to hallucinate the strangest dinner party that involved Jim with a mustache. He grew the stash! He's gonna grow the goddamn stash! Jim had trouble convincing himself that he wasn't under Sophia's thumb. Oswald felt trapped in Arkham as Jerome tried to bring out the Penguin's fun side. Last minute reveal, Ivy mixed some of her blood with a drop of Lazarus water and created a flower that shot spores deadlier than her scratch.
Jim grew the stash. Next episode. Let's do this. Like, literally, there's nothing else you need to talk about Gotham. Jim grew the stash. Let's go on to Arrow.
Okay. All right. It was in a fever dream.
But it looked good.
Yes. Yeah, we have a proof of concept here. And also we do see that Bruce planted the seed, to use an Ivy metaphor, with Jim at the end of the episode. So yeah, I mean, it was a little bit more like, like that 30s refined, clean mustache. It wasn't pencil thin, but it wasn't like as bushy as Jim Gordon's mustache is in the comics. So, I'd like a little bit more roughage in there, but you know what? It's a great start.
Well, dreams often idealize things. So maybe it's the ideal mustache, but in reality, you'd have a little bit more like bristle and a little maybe more salt and pepper in there. You're going to have a little more, real life as opposed to ideal dreams. So
yeah,
it's just, it's a taste of things to come. It's very exciting. On my couch, I gasped so loudly when I saw that mustache that it startled the cat next to me. So, yeah, he grew the stash. I mean, I guess other stuff happened this episode, but whatever.
Yeah. I will mention, because we did have a lot of Twitter action here. Someone named Agent Palmer pointed out that Ivy's a bit vain with all this "tell me I'm beautiful" stuff. But now we know why they had to age her. Otherwise, it would have been creepy. And I think he's right.
Yeah, she really did need to be a little older and a little more her own woman in order to pull that off. I agree.
Yeah.
And this new actress is doing well. I mean, she's a good fit. I like the menace she brings. Yeah.
Yeah,
cool.
it
cool.
feels very Terminator to me in the sense that she's just this bomb that's going to go off and just destroy everything in her path, and there's no easy way to stop her. You know, like even Selina's beyond the point of trying to reason with her. She's you know, the whole thing is just get out of her way, or pray she doesn't see you.
Scratch you. Yeah.
And you know that was another Agent Palmer tweet was, so the cat and the cop, can we keep this dynamic duo together for a few episodes? I kind of like the pair. And Selina and Jim had a lot of interaction in season 1 of Gotham. And this was a little bit of a throwback to that. And I did like that dynamic. They do have a nice rapport.
You know, here's my thing. Name me a character Selina doesn't have good rapport with. I love that character, that actress, how she plays that role. I don't think she gets to do enough. And that's too bad. But she's great with Bruce. I think she's great with the Sirens. She's great with Jim. I'm trying to think if we've seen her with Alfred, of course. Yeah, I wish they'd give her a little bit more. Maybe a storyline of her own would be nice. Someday, maybe.
Yeah. Well, you know, I mean, if you want that to happen, you've got to get her out, away from Babs and Tab, from Babs and Tabitha. But although, you know, I don't know how much longer Tabitha is going to be in the picture, and Babs is getting crazier by the second. So, you know, we'll see.
It's high time. It's high time for Babs to return to her Babsness.
Yes. What did you think it was wise for Lucius to keep that secret from Jim? Because I feel like this episode would have been over a lot faster.
Secrets, we've talked about this. Secrets are never wise. No.
Yeah, and Jim's fooling himself about Sophia, right? Like she's
yeah. Oh, Jim.
Yeah.
I'm glad Sophia's sticking around. She's another one I feel like she's been down. Well, they haven't been back for that long, but she's been a little downplayed on this back half of the season. But I'm sure there's going to be plenty of fireworks with her coming up. I have no doubt. I will say I enjoyed seeing. I mean, Alexander Siddig as Ra's al Ghul. I almost called him Ra's al Zul, but there is no Dana here, only Zul. He was downright cheerful, I thought, in that dream sequence, and I really enjoyed that he got to play this sort of like, hey, what's going on? Also, I was fast forwarding through the commercials during that, and there was a commercial with O.J. Simpson on it right before we jumped into Bruce's dream sequence, and I swear I thought Bruce was dreaming about O.J. Simpson, and I was just like, what kind of messed up poison did she give him? Good Lord. That is strong stuff. So, yeah. He was not dreaming about the juice. I was just getting my commercials mixed up. Yeah. But I don't usually like dream sequences. I don't generally like that kind of, to me, it's low stakes metaphor-y stuff. And I don't typically go for that. But, I mean, it gave us the stash. And I don't know, that was real Batman-y where that went. Was that too on the nose for you, or were you like, yes?
I mean, to me, that's the revelation. And I think this puts us, like, we're at a point now. I still think this show could go another season. But that, like, we're at a point now where, like, I see a way now that they could end the show this season if they had to. Because I feel like Bruce has seen where he's got to go. He knows his mission. He knows who he's going to become. Like, and also I like the fact that he comes out of that not wanting the burden. You know, he feels traumatized by that moment. He's seen who he is and he doesn't like it. But he still feels...
And more importantly, he calls Alfred.
Yeah. And he immediately calls Alfred, which, you know, he should have done a while ago. He should have gone to, he shouldn't have fired him in the first place. But
Obviously.
yeah, it's going to be nice to have him back together. And focused on now. It's funny, like the first 2 episodes of this season, we're seeing him running around in the mask almost feel like a tease. And now he's going to be getting back to that. Although I am glad that we did get to see him do the whole billionaire playboy thing a little bit.
Well, it's an equally big part of his superhero alter ego, the whole thing. That was, is that not as essential as him seeing an outline of somebody in a cowl exploding into a bunch of bats? Both of those 2 things feel not equally, but quite important to that persona.
Yeah. And it's funny. Speaking of Bruce, the last tweet that we had on Gotham this week was from Bowerfett at Bowerfett on Twitter, and he put together. We're seeing all of these versions of villains in Gotham, but he wants to know, would it be nice? He's saying it would be nice to see a future Rogue who's actually younger than Bruce. And he was wondering,
and I thought we had that with that school kid who got murdered earlier this season. I thought maybe that kid was going to grow up to be somebody important, and then he just died.
Yeah.
But no, I agree. I think that'd be really cool.
Yeah, he suggests something like the Royal Flush Gang being teenage hoodlums, or a 12-year-old Harleen Quinzel. It seemed normal but moon-eyed over Bad Boy Bruce. And yeah, that's something, I guess. Jerome's not that much older than him, but that is something that would be interesting to play around with. And I think that segues best into Jerome and Oswald. Was that not the scariest thing you've ever seen on this show yet?
I didn't enjoy any of this, so I'm going to let you handle this portion. No. It was too much for me. It was too much.
Yeah. There was a lot of intrigue going on. As far as this season goes, I don't know. I enjoyed parts of it. I enjoyed the resolution. I enjoyed the dynamic that, Penguin got his stones back when he realized that the Riddler is still hiding somewhere inside Ed. When he got that little origami note left behind, I was really jazzed by that, and I do think that mime scene that they had was cool. That he figured out to play Jerome's game, and he found a way to win and kind of, at least get his confidence back. I do think that they were spinning tires before that, but I thought that scene was really intriguing and different.
I must have been grumpy when I watched it, because I just felt like it went too far into camp, and I don't know. It did not work for me, but that may have just been a me thing and not a Gotham thing.
Well, you see, that's also a thing with this show. Like, this show, there are going to be moments where you've got to embrace the camp. Where and
usually I'm fine with it. Usually I'm the sirens vamping it up all over the place. Great, So I don't know. I really do think I was just in a place for Jerome when I watched it.
All right. Any news for Gotham this week?
Yeah. Speaking of Jerome, so not long ago, Morena Baccarin, who plays Doc Lee Thompson, slipped and said that Dominic Monaghan is playing 2 roles in this back half of the season, and one of them is a relative of Jerome's. And then Dominic Monaghan himself has confirmed that, he is playing dual roles. He enjoys the challenge of making them distinct characters, and that we're going to meet this new guy in the next couple of weeks. And that really tracks with news we'd talked about in a previous episode, that the Joker, Jerome is not the Joker, but the Joker might be related to Jerome somehow, or somehow connected. And I mean, to me, this is exactly what they're talking about, is it's not Jerome, but it's not Jerome. So, and then, we have an article from comicbook.com talking about how Gotham in this back half of the season is going to adapt a couple of comic storylines. One of them is No Man's Land, and one of them is Loeb and Sales' The Long Halloween. And here is where, in my notes, Ed, start talking.
Okay. So the Long Halloween, it's funny because parts of the Long Halloween were used in Batman Begins because it heavily features the Falcone crime family. And the concept is it was I think 13 issues, and it was like a year in the life of Batman, but it goes through all of the seasons. Like it starts at Halloween and then goes through a different holiday for each month, and it follows one long storyline. No Man's Land is this epic. I have the original 5 trade paperbacks. It comprises dozens of issues. But the basic storyline was an earthquake hit Gotham, and the damage was so bad that the federal government abandoned it and called it a no man's land and had everyone evacuate. But some people were either didn't want to leave or too poor to leave, and all of Batman's villains divvied up the city into their territories, and Jim Gordon was leading a legion of cops trying to fight for territory and keep peace in the city. And Batman was nowhere to be found. Now the parts of that were used for the movie The Dark Knight Rises. Basically, like the back half of that movie is No Man's Land. So we've seen a version of this in comics, on screen before. But there's a lot of different places that you can go with that. I can already see all the different ways that city was divvied up between those villains. There was another sanctuary that Dr. Leslie Tompkins was having. She turned basically turned this one church into her medical clinic and was kind of using it to protect the homeless, from all of these horrible mobsters. And, yeah. So I don't know how they're going to wrap that up in, whatever's left of this season. We do have a good 9 episodes. So like they need to start that like now, or if that's something that they would do for next season. But yeah.
I could see them introducing it this season and then really going all in next season, should a next season come. But
yeah, I mean, if they're doing No Man's Land, I find that very exciting.
Well, cool.
Yeah. Does that work for you?
Anytime you have any kind of breakdown of society kind of storyline, yeah, that sounds really interesting to me. Cool. Do we have enough? Yeah, I guess we have enough villains. We have enough villains to divvy up the city. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that could work. That could be cool.
Yeah. I mean, ooh. Yeah, so much. So sorry if I went deep on that. But
it's what I wanted you to do.
Good.
Some of these news stories, I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna wind him up and let him go. Awesome.
Cool. Anything more in Gotham?
That's really it for me.
All right. Cool. One show to go. We could do it. All right. Arrow, Season 6, Episode 15, Doppelganger. Black Siren made a show for the cameras claiming she was Laurel Lance, and Quentin tried to protect her from Dinah, even though she's not his daughter! Just when it looked like the case against Oliver was going to be dismissed, the prosecution revealed its new star witness, Roy Harper. Ollie and company learned that Roy was being held against his will by crooked cops working for Ricardo Diaz, the true mastermind behind all of this season's trouble. Last minute reveal, Thea and Roy finally had a romantic moment alone together, but they were being watched by a member of the League of Assassins.
League of Voyeurs, more like. Creepy. So exciting for me. I didn't hate this episode. Yay!
Yeah, and it's funny. We got back to basics. We brought back a character from the original that we loved. We kind of put Curtis and Renee on the back burner. Like, there was just that one scene of Curtis talking to Zoe, and
I'm pretty sure that's why I did not hate this episode, for the record.
Yeah, and Dinah didn't suit up, and pretty much kept to herself. Was still a little annoying, but yeah, I thought the Roy scene was really compelling, and that actually, I thought brought out Kirk Acevedo. He finally got to stretch his legs, and we got to see that he actually, I feel after watching this episode that he can carry it as a big bad for the rest of the season.
Oh, see, I'm not quite there yet. I've never been one who's like, that guy, nah, because I know he's a good actor. I haven't been that impressed with his character. You're right. They did some steps, but I'm still sad that we have lost Michael Emerson, frankly. So I'll get over it. It'll be okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but you see what he's building. I mean, now that, like, the real trick is, how long has he been tracking these guys? Because, like, he even knew that Roy and Thea were a thing. Like, he knew that Roy, was not the original Arrow as everyone else thought.
Yeah. And he knew how to find Roy, where even Thea didn't know how to find Roy. So clearly you're right, he's got his fingers in a lot of pies.
Yeah.
And they've been there for a while.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Now you found out that Roy's been living in St. Rock this whole time. That's also where the Hawks reside. Did that make you scream at all?
Well, now it does. I didn't know that. Ugh.
Yeah, at the end of season 1. At the end of season 1, they said they were moving to St. Rock.
No, I've blocked them all out. Hawk who now? There are no Hawk people in the DC universe. What do you mean, Hawk? Okay, so most exciting for me, Speedy suits up. Where are you guys keeping my suit? Yes! I've missed that so much. I think the actress doesn't want to do this anymore. I get it, whatever. But I was really glad to see Thea suit up. So that was very cool. And what did you think about Oliver pulling her out of the window and away from that fight? Was that her decision to make? Or was he doing that as a hero or as a big brother?
I think he was doing that as a strategist. I think he was doing that as a head coach. Like, I got to pull you out of the game. Because this just isn't safe. It's not a thing that he usually does. But, I think it kind of made sense with the way they'd set it up. They really, it's hard to say, because you don't want to end up killing cops even if they are crooked. The way they were, I think he made the right choice. I understand the way that they set it up with the logic. I also think that that built up the tension really well for the rest of the episode. But I agree with that decision.
I was frustrated on Thea's behalf. She had made a decision and she was going to do what she was going to do. Mm-hmm. And then somebody took that choice away from her, and that frustrated me a little bit. But, you're right. It wasn't a brother thing. He would have done that for pretty much anybody on this team, I think. But yeah, I was still glad to see her in action. Also, what kind of monster first punches Roy's face and then his abs? Respect the merchandise. My God. Yeah, and it's funny. I didn't realize how much I missed him. And I think this is a great way if Thea's gonna leave the show. I think that's a great way for it to happen. I think that makes sense for them to get together. Do you know what I love? I love two characters who used to be in a relationship who see each other again after years and years apart and immediately kiss. I love that. And we got that. Thank you, Arrow. Yeah, I just cannot control myself. My lips have to touch your lips immediately. So yeah, I that speaks to that deep emotion. Roy's like, yeah, I'm not dating anybody because, like, so if that is how she's going to leave the show, it seems like this is a thing that maybe it's why Thea feels like she's just been passing time. since he left. And I hate to think of her character as being on hold waiting for some dude. But if this is what she needs to bring her back to life and sort of give her a little more peace and direction, because she's been an unsettled, unhappy character often, I hope they write it that way, that she's going to find satisfaction and contentment. And if they are going to write her off the show, which it seems to me pretty clear that's what's going to happen, she and Roy are going to ride off together. If this brings that character happiness, I am all about it. And this feels like a good first step in that direction.
Yeah. Although we do find out that there is a little wrinkle that the League of Assassins is watching, and it seems from the credits like evidently now that Malcolm is nowhere to be seen, she's the heir to the throne of Ra's al Ghul.
I don't think she's going to like that very much.
No. She can't just turn to Nissa. Nissa, you want this job.
I'm just going to give it to you. Why don't you just take it?
Yeah. We don't have to fight in ritual combat. I could just do the M'Baku thing and yield to you. It's fine. Oh, you don't get that joke. Oh, man, I made a Black Panther joke, and you don't understand it.
Okay, I already feel really bad that
I'm sorry.
I'll get there. I'm going to listen back a week from now and be like, Ed killed that. That was great. So we're approaching a minute or an hour 30. Do you want to say anything about Black Siren or no?
I don't know what to say about Black Siren, but I think Ashley, River8878 on Twitter summed it best. With her thoughts on Dinah. OMG, yes. Tell her how it is, Ollie. OMG, no, Dinah. You don't get to act hurt because he said no. It's what you said you wanted, so suck it up, Buttercup. I think those are my thoughts.
The end.
Mm-hmm.
I think Black Siren trying to pretend to be our Laurel so it'll be harder to kill her was really smart, actually.
Yes.
But that was the only part of that I appreciated. The rest of it was pretty icky, I thought.
Yeah, pretty much. All right, cool. No news for Arrow, right?
No news for Arrow, so we can kind of go into the shows that are not currently airing, if that's okay, starting with Supergirl, where we get our first look at Purity in her World Killer suit. It's got some red in it. You've got some red on you, if you are a Shaun of the Dead fan. But yeah, it's not all black like Rain is. And that's in comicbook.com and elsewhere, of course, but you can check that out if you want. And the article also points out, again, that connection between Kara's mom, Allura, that Sam saw kind of a nightmare version of Allura in the season premiere, just like Kara dreamed about her mother in the season premiere. So maybe we are going to have Allura having created the World Killers or having a hand in that. That does sort of parallel, and we've been seeing a lot of talk about that. So this long hiatus gives us a chance to speculate, and speculate we do, which gets into the next two stories. One is from comicbook.com, suggesting that maybe the Legion's super secret mission is actually them trying to prevent the crisis on Infinite Earths. And the article goes into a lot of reasons why that could be the case. And here's where I say, Ed, take it away.
No, it's not, because Crisis on Infinite Earths is actually the story that's in the headline from season 1 of Flash, about the red skies showing up, and that's meant to happen 10 years from season 1, and we're still about 6 years away from that. So. Yeah, no, I'm going to debunk that right now. It's not Crisis.
Okay, next story. Comic Book Resources says that Supergirl has name-dropped Gotham pretty often, and it is high time that they bring in Batgirl. That Batgirl would be a great fit for the show. They suggest that it doesn't have to be Barbara Gordon Batgirl. It could be a couple of the, any of the other iterations, but give us Batgirl already. And I haven't read a lot of Batgirl stuff, but yeah, I am on board with that.
Batgirl would be fun. What I think would be more fun, which I've said before, would be for Maggie Sawyer to show back in town with her and her girlfriend Batwoman, because they're supposed to be together. As everyone
I think
knows.
that would make Alex really sad, though.
Wouldn't it be amazing? Wouldn't that be amazing? I mean, in the point and laugh way. I'm sorry.
That's the meanest thing you've ever said. Oh my gosh.
I mean, I'm just saying. In a warped, dark, humorous way, I would laugh. I would laugh because it's so horrible.
I'm just saying,
and
I'm an insensitive man. Everyone stop and look at the insensitive man.
I don't think it's going to happen. But if it did, I would hate myself because of how much I would enjoy it.
Good. But, pulling it back to the question at the top of the podcast 8 years ago, what show could we introduce on Sunday nights on the CW? Mm-hmm. We'd suggested Birds of Prey, which would include Batgirl, yes?
Yes, yeah. Yes. Well, the original Birds of Prey, Batgirl now. But originally, when Barbara Gordon wasn't Batgirl, when she was paralyzed and put in a wheelchair, she was the Oracle, who was one of my favorite DC heroes that you don't really see around anymore. Who even though she was disabled and bound to a wheelchair, she could still make a huge difference because she was the chief hacker, and provided information and tech resources to not just Batman and the Birds of Prey, but also the Justice League and all the other heroes in the DC universe. So yeah.
I'd like to see that character introduced in, movies, TV, whatever.
Yeah.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, it would be. It would be.
Last show that we have news for, if we're ready to move on, is Krypton. Which premieres soon and very soon.
Yes.
And so that hype machine is picking up. One is a story on sci-fi.com where the show is going to air on sci-fi, talking about why the showrunners chose this generation. We know what happened to Superman's dad. He did. But we don't really know what happened to his grandfather and his peers. And so that's why they're focusing on Seg-El in this show. And in fact, David S. Goyer, one of the showrunners, says the fact that we've got a time travel element means that it's not even written in stone that in our show, Krypton will have the same fate.
Oh, stop it.
I know. Come on. They're not going to not explode Krypton.
Don't give me that Star Trek Enterprise bullshit. All right? We know where we got to end up here. All right? We know where it's going. The fun is in the journey. Don't mix that around. Don't throw that out there like you're gonna turn this into that J.J. Abrams script from the early aughts where Superman wasn't, where Krypton didn't blow up and Superman was a refugee from aliens who came to Earth and he had some kind of costume and there were green stones and I remember just hearing news stories of that when I was a freshman in high school and just cringing and want to throw my pizza roll across the lunchroom. Just oh my god. I'm sorry.
So how you feeling about the Krypton premiere, Ed?
I'm sorry. This show's going to be good. This show's I'm really excited for the show. I'm really excited for this show.
Well, and if you're on the fence about it, and of course I'm going to watch because podcast, but Den of Geek had a great long article about the show Krypton and how the lengths they've gone to make the planet feel authentic, dirty and lived in and imperfect. We often think about Krypton as this sort of icy perfection from the Donner movies or the alien sort of pod shapes from the more recent movies. But they've gone into great lengths for world building to make it feel real and breathing. One of the examples was they have this sort of cheap metal mesh that you see all over the place in the poorer districts of Krypton that the people there use for everything, for furniture, for shelter, et cetera, and because it's this affordable building material. So they make an effort to incorporate that throughout. So you feel like this is what they are using with what they have on hand. They want to make it a standalone sci-fi world as opposed to just it's a Superman thing. And that's my jam. So this, after reading all this, and there's so much more detail that go into it, sounds fantastic. They also did a little bit on Cameron Cuff, who is playing Seg-El, the lead. Is a big DC Comics and Superman fan and cites Jeff Johns and Gary Frank and Kurt Busiek and Alex Ross's Kingdom Come as some of his favorites. So I love it. I love an actor who has great affection for the comics even before he was cast or she was cast. And this whole article at Den of Geek I thought was great. And I'm more excited for Krypton than I have been in the past because of all the detail they went into. So yeah. Krypton. Yeah. Yay.
Yeah, I will say if you want to dive deep on Kryptonian mythology, check out Jeff Johns and Gary Frank's Superman New Krypton. It wasn't just those two that worked on. I think James Robinson wrote a lot of that too. But that's another big epic about a piece of Krypton coming to Earth, and setting up roots, and the shitstorm that causes in the world economy and international politics. Lot to talk about there. But yeah, that's really exciting. And I'm ready for the show. Like, I haven't seen a lot of the trailers, just the stuff that you've put up here, and I'm really open to seeing like what kind of world that we're gonna be introduced to here. And we got 2 weeks left. Let's I can't wait. I can't wait. Cool. That's all the news, right?
That is it. Just time for the winner of the week.
Winner of the week. All right. So, I'm going to go, the theme that I found running through a lot of these episodes was the idea of fathers and daughters.
Oh, sure.
Yeah. And I think Damian and Nora got a little closer on Legends of Tomorrow in kind of a weird, strange, scary way, but they still got closer. I think that Jesse and Harrison Wells on Flash had some really cool father-daughter moments, and of course on Black Lightning you had Anissa and Jefferson really come to an understanding, and Quentin had that thing with that woman who's not his daughter.
She is so not his daughter.
Yeah, really, just not his daughter. I found that cropping up, and I thought it was interesting the way all of those shows played with that dynamic.
It's always cool when the shows dovetail, quite on accident, but yeah, it's fun. My winner of the week, Ed, is you. You know why? Jim Gordon grew the stash.
Yes.
And I'm genuinely happy for you. You started the hashtag Grow the Stash movement. It happened. And you conjured the appearance of Gorilla Grodd by saying last week, yeah, I'd like to see Gorilla Grodd back. So you, my friend, you won the week. Well done.
Aw, thank you. That's great. All right. So we're already going too long, but this was fun, and yeah. So we in a couple of weeks we're gonna have an 8th show that we're adding onto this. So
I don't even know how we're gonna handle that.
Oh, we'll see. We'll figure out a way to manage. But anyway, for now, that's the DC TV report for this week. You can find us on Twitter. I'm at Edward O'Hare TBD.
And I'm Sara Netzley, SaraNetzley.
Yeah, and follow the show on Twitter at DCTV Report. Send along your emails to dctv@wickedtheory.com, and also be sure to subscribe to our show on your podcast app of choice, and check out our sister shows, the Wicked Theory Podcast and Preacher vs. Preacher. Plus, if you have the option to rate and review us, please do that. It helps other people find us. This has been a Wicked Theory Studios production. Executive producer Bill Sweeney. Visit us at wickedtheory.com. Shazam, everybody.
Shazam.
Shazam.